Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to another edition of the Life on the Flipside for all those of us on the eastern half of the globe. And with me tonight, of course, my lovely co-host Crafty Keela, and our special
Hello.
guest, the winner of last week's Find the Goat, Mr. Sableagle. So let's start with Crafty. How are you, dear?
I am good. I have sun in my eyes at the moment because the sun is split in the sky here in Ireland.
Hmm,
So yeah, I'm happy. Except
good.
for sun in my eyes, but other than that, I can't really complain. I can complain, but nobody will listen, so I'm just gonna shut up.
That's our Crafty. And of course, our special guest, the winner of Find the Goat, Mr. Sableagle. How are you, sir?
Oh, lots to complain about, but nobody wants to hear it, so I'll shut up too.
Well, we're happy to have you on the show, and well, like usual, we're just going to talk about whatever comes to mind. So, Crafty, you got anything you want to talk about?
Um, there's a few things actually, and I think
Hmm.
number one has to be the calving and in Antarctica in the last 24 hour, 48 hours. Um,
Wow,
one of the biggest icebergs, which is bigger than the size of New York, broke away from the Antarctica, which is very fucking scary.
that is incredibly scary. That's going to have some major impacts.
Absolutely. The was the I can't even think of the name of the Gulf, but sorry, I'm just trying to find it here. The North Rift, um, which is something that was found a couple of years ago, a new crack that was found.
Hmm.
It's there. So if people know of the North Rift, that's where the calving has happened. It's very concerning,
Yeah, no kidding. That
Isn't
is.
especially.
north a bit of a strange choice of direction for Antarctica? I mean, it's not the most informative.
No, it's not really, is it? But yeah, it's quite concerning. It's quite concerning.
Yeah, no kidding. I wonder what the effects of that are going to be, though.
Um, sorry,
Well,
I'm just
quite big if any ships hit it, but very cold fresh water drifting north.
Oh no, Titanic 2.
I don't know where it is and which way the currents go. It'll be a real problem if it wanders up the River Plate into Buenos Aires.
Well, if it comes too far north, it's going to, of course, melt. And that's going to be an awful lot of fresh water into the ocean. And that's a dangerous thing because too much of that, you get desalinization and you get major climate change.
yep. Clivewell says, "I'll wait for the film Escape from Antarctica."
Ooh,
Yeah,
Is that like Escape from New York, but worse?
that's going to be bleak. That's very bleak. Assisted by penguins, of course. What?
what?
Oh, Carl Edwards made it assisted by penguins.
Aha. Okay.
So hello,
Well,
people. Other than that, like there was a few things that I wanted to talk about over the course of the hour and a half. But,
yeah.
I'll,
Yeah, I think there's one or two things that might come to mind for me as well.
but we have a special guest.
We do. So we should let him choose our main topic for today.
Well, we need to get to know him a little bit first.
Yeah.
Sable, tell people what you want them to know about you, if you want them to know anything.
Way to put a man on the spot.
Yeah.
It's me terrified for the rest of the day.
It's okay. It's okay. Well, we were talking there before we went live. You're a bit of a bird watcher.
Yeah, very sporadically and amateurishly, but yeah.
Any interesting bird stories?
Close encounters with a few.
Ah, cool.
Red
Was
kite that took off over my head when I disturbed it from dinner way up in the moors. It thought it had the whole hill to itself, and here comes this idiot on a bicycle.
As you do.
Well, I thought I had the whole hill to myself, and suddenly there's this thing with a 6-foot wingspan going over my head.
Yeah, I mean,
Looking very
we had
unhappy.
we had one of the oldest observatories down where I used to live, and we were talking about this before we came on air. A couple of years ago, we had a little bird, some sort of a warbler, who had never made it to even Europe, get blown in on a hurricane. And people came from as far off, I think, as Germany to come and see this bloody bird. It was the first time it was ever spotted in Europe. And I can't remember whether it was from Canada or Siberia, but there was two. The other one that was seen the same week, there was people come down from Belfast, drove through the night just to get a look at this bird. And because we were on an island, they come over to the island, looked everywhere for this bird. Nobody could find it. No one. And as they got back onto the ferry to leave, the bird was spotted in the garden in the harbour. And so the ferry had to turn around and bring people back just for 5 minutes with this fucking bird.
Jeez.
How incredible is that? That's dedication.
That, I would say.
The bird had no idea what it was all about.
No. All of a sudden, there's people peeking over a wall to see it. Thank fuck birds don't have a sense of
Humor?
Well, not humor. My brain has just gone flat. No, they're not likely to get embarrassed. They're not going to get stage fright.
No. They're birds. They don't care.
Yep. He was just hopping around that garden, didn't give a fuck.
That's right.
They actually don't like being stared at. This is one thing I've found with the blackbirds here, robins that I got feeding out of my hand, and a pheasant at one farm. That if you look at them, especially if you're standing above them, that's a predator getting ready to pounce.
Yeah.
But if you're looking away, then you're not a predator getting ready to pounce, and they're a lot more confident.
Yeah, so I had this thing where there was every morning, instead of a rooster, we had a pheasant. And the pheasant would scream its weird little call. And we didn't know whether there was one pheasant or several, because the person that I was caring for was blind. So he could just hear a pheasant every now and then. So he was like, yeah, there's a pheasant on the island. There was no way in hell there was only one fucking pheasant, right? So one day I went down to look at the goats to check on them. There was a pheasant east of us going blah, 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 blah. And there was a fucking pheasant west of us going blah, blah. I was like, yeah, there's definitely more than one pheasant. But I went for a walk. But it was at different times. Anyway, we went for a walk, and all of a sudden, south, I mean all the way south in the island, there was another fucking pheasant. It's like there had to be more than one pheasant. Apparently there was up to 30 pheasants on the fucking island, and I was hearing multiple, not just the one. It was funny. Have you ever stared down a pheasant that does not give a fuck?
No, but I've been on the other side of a window with a pheasant that very definitely did. He'd spotted his own reflection in the window, and he was very unhappy about this other male pheasant being in his garden. And he was going to fight that male pheasant, no matter what it took, no matter how many times he bounced off the invisible barrier between him and that other male pheasant. He was going to attack him eventually.
Bad. That would have been funny to see, I think.
Yeah, Tusk says, I used to live next to a grouse moor. The noise of this little bastard makes is horrifying, especially at 5 a.m. So he understands. Pheasants for the most part are peaceful. When you find ones that because we didn't have any predators on the island. There was no foxes, there was no mink, there was none of that. So they just fucking bloomed, you know? They did not give a fuck. They didn't care about humans. They'd come up right up to you. But I was coming back from checking the goats, and I had two people with me, and one of the pheasants was standing on top of one, like the rock mountain thing, And it was just staring at us the whole way up the fucking field, right the way through the rocks. And it did not give a fuck. It was so unsettling to see a pheasant that confident.
You know when they used to have televisions in shop front windows? I don't know if they still
Yes.
do. You used to have loads of TVs showing whatever's on BBC or ITV, whatever. Do you think pheasants ever stood in front of the shop and watched Jurassic Park?
I would love for that to have happened.
That would be funny.
That would be brilliant.
I have my suspicions about crows doing that because there was a documentary about crows in Tokyo that were stealing walnuts from the market and had learned to go to the Pelican Crossing, wait for a red light, roll the walnuts in front of a car's wheels, wait for the lights to change and the cars to run over them, wait for the lights to change again and come down and get the crumbs using cars to open the nuts. And after this documentary was on TV here, crows in London started doing the same thing.
Wow.
That's smart
They
birds.
got the idea. Oh my god, someone whispered, I think it was a crow whisperer. Someone whispered saying, "You can steal walnuts. And do this."
Even the first ones in Tokyo, they must have got the idea from somewhere that walnuts are food. They must have got that from watching humans eat them.
Yeah.
Quite possibly, because crows are very intelligent.
Maybe a human dropped a walnut, crushed it, and all the pieces went everywhere. And went, oh well, never mind. And a crow found that and thought, oh, that's what's in those things.
Uh-huh.
Right then, how do we open that?
Yum, yum.
Let's discuss this amongst the crows. Crows are incredible. Fucking hyper intelligence, and again, like it's one of those things that we don't really ascribe to animal kind beyond ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, mine's the gull nicking the packet of crisps out of the shops. Yeah, I went to Brighton at one stage, and anyone that knows Brighton knows of the killer birds that are in Brighton. They really do not give a fuck. They will come and they will take food right out your hand. There is no fear in those birds whatsoever. Those gulls will just come up and fucking attack you and say thank you.
That's
Greater
weird.
black-backed gull, that's one of those ring species, or a discontinuous ring species, where I think it's Iceland, there are lesser black-backed gulls and greater black-backed gulls. And the greater ones will attack the lesser ones and steal their food. And the lesser ones have to try to find food and eat it without getting beaten up by the greater black-backed ones. And again, I think you go east from there, the lesser you run out of greater black-backed gulls. You just get slightly larger, lesser ones. And farther east, they're slightly bigger. By the time you're all the way across to Kamchatka, the lesser black-backed gull is kind of medium-sized. And if you follow it across the Aleutian Islands to Alaska and across Canada, it's getting bigger and bigger. By the time you get back to Iceland, it is the greater black-backed gull. It's just evolved differently in this kind of spiral around the longitude.
Interesting. I don't know much about birds, so don't mind me if I'm a little bit quiet here.
I don't know much about birds either. It was just like personal history with living on an island that is obsessed with fucking birds. Not with fucking birds, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean?
Thank you.
Yeah, we know what you mean.
That's clipped.
Oh, do you know Jen Aldrich, by the way?
No.
Co-hosts the Xenia Bridge with Ali Akai.
Nope.
The Atheist Wind Down show and a couple of other things they're on. People in the side chat there tend to have an F-bomb counter for Jen. I was just thinking it might be interesting if you went on a show with her.
Which Jen?
Aldrich. You'll have to look her up.
Okay. Because
You might know her as the blonde with the boobs.
Yeah. We should probably, but I would break such a counter because, for Irish people, that's the thing. For Irish people, you grow up with them with curse words being normal vernacular. Like it's just another word.
One of those places where you don't use commas, you just say fuck.
It's one of those places where to call someone a bastard is like it depends on the intent behind it, and the context in which you're saying it. But for the most part, if you call someone a bastard, you're just calling them an idiot, like.
Yeah.
And
the
Americans, the Americans in particular, get so offended if you call someone a bastard. They really do. It's fucking hilarious.
Well, you can do that with just about anything. You know? Oz in Buffy telling Willow, "You are quite the human being," was a really big compliment. But in a different context, coming from me, "You human being."
Yep.
How
it's
dare
definitely,
you call me that?
Yeah, it's definitely about the context. Context is everything, people.
Oh, it is. It is. It's just some words just have different meanings in different parts of the world. You know.
So, Sable, when did you get involved in the whole debunk community, the science community? How did that happen for you?
Well, in science, probably when I was 7 and found it interesting at school. But in the debunking and science stuff on YouTube, I found Flat Earth via probably Conspiracy Cats or Simon Dan years ago. And there were a load of... I was probably looking up something about spaceflight and found from that to the debunks. And I can't remember whether the first thing that came up was this... how come gravity can hold an ocean to the bottom of a spinning ball but can't hold birds down thing.
Yeah.
For which I did the Dud Mumble. See, I must have heard of D Marble by the time I came up with the name Dud Mumble. I did a fake one of that. I'd asked the same question, but then said, how come it can't hold down this bird? And threw a dead pigeon into the air and filmed it going up and back down. Thud. What? Let me try that again. How come it can't hold down this bird? Flip. Thud. What is wrong with this bird? Just as a spoof. Or the first one might have been that there was all this back and forth about, how can this work? And this is impossible. And no, it works like this. Look, there's this really obvious explanation of it that nobody seems to be giving. So I gave that. I can't remember which one came first. I should probably go back and look at that. But find playlists. This is where we find out whether Firefox is still working. Dud Mumble, the Flat Earther. First video was Question for Globe Believers, and it's dated October 2018.
Post the link into the private chat and we'll get that into the general chat.
Okay.
Because I'd say people might want to have a look at that just for the crack.
Yeah, Dud Mumble actually has one of my most popular recent videos when Mr. Sensible sent that balloon up. I did a Dud Mumble explanation of why he saw curved horizons. It's fun to do the fake flat earther thing, not as a fake flat earther, but as a fake flat earther who is accidentally answering the flat earther's question, accidentally being a globe earther. So I don't bother with him unless I can come up with a way to actually debunk the flat earth point. And for the serious stuff, I have a... Dear Firefox, dear YouTube, why you make this difficult? Oh, it's there. Right.
Yeah, so
131 globe earth videos.
I've put that into the chat there so people can have a look after the stream.
question of scale, this may be one of the very first ones, was
Excuse me.
one thing that a lot of people, yeah, that's also October 2018. That doesn't help. One of the things that I noticed about flat earthers or flat earth videos, or back when there were more sincere seeming flat earthers who weren't constantly shouting foul allegations, it was sort of, there were the people selling t-shirts, there were the ones who just couldn't do maths. There were mostly, it seemed to be, people who didn't get 3D. And people
Yes.
just didn't know the scale of everything. There was an actual example of people who didn't get 3D. There was a flat earther who pointed out that he gave a perfect explanation on a table of why you should see different stars overhead at midnight at different times of year. And it was a really good explanation of why we have the 12 signs of the zodiac associated with 12 different months, why Orion is a winter constellation, not a summer one, and everything else for Northern Hemisphere.
Yeah.
It was a great explanation of that. And then he said, so how come that star is always in the exact same place, week after week and month after month, above my neighbour's barn, across the street to the north? And he was looking at Polaris.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, he had everything in 2D on the celestial equator worked out perfectly, but he didn't have the concept that 3D, that one's in a different direction. And the other one was scale, that you see all these people holding up, here is a watermelon and here is a ping pong ball, or whatever, for
Yeah.
scaling with the Earth and the Moon.
Hell.
And
Oh,
Yeah,
that wrecks my head.
I think Gallia melon and ping pong ball are about the right scale, but you need to hold them 4 meters apart.
Yeah.
If you want to know how it's possible to be stood near York Minster, looking south, which is where I went to film it, across York at the partial lunar eclipse, and be seeing the shadow of Antarctica as the top half, as seen from here, of the moon is in shadow, and the bottom half is sunlit. If you're thinking of a Gallia melon and a ping pong ball held side by side, one in front of each of some guy's shoulders, it doesn't make sense. But if just once the teacher would put the Gallia melon at one side of the room and go across to the other side of the room with the ping pong ball to illustrate the scale, then everyone can see it's that far away. There is that much empty space.
Well, the other problem with it is a lot of flat earthers, for me anyway, it's presupposition. So they start with the conclusion that what I see is flat. What I experience is flat. Not understanding scale and everything else. And so if that's your starting point, then you have to make everything. They might have the right process or the right steps that they're going through, but their conclusion has to be that it's flat. And so everything that they go through the steps, they do it correctly, and then they use whatever they do to fit the conclusion.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're doing the zetetic astronomy thing where this fish pond looks flat, therefore the entire planet is flat.
Yeah.
Now fit everything else you observe around that observation.
Exactly.
Rather than the scientific thing of, well, I can't see any curvature in this duck pond, so there is, so the Earth's radius must be more than 10 meters.
Yeah.
Just 10. We'll go with 10.
Well, you do get these people saying, why can't I see curvature in the length of the bathtub or in the swimming pool?
Oh,
because the wavelength of the light you're using to see is more than twice the amount of
Did you see who was it recently? I think it was Simon Dan on actually had a thing on where your man went and got water out of the ocean and put it in his bathtub and said, I think it was fucking Pratt.
Yeah, it sounds like Pratt.
Yeah, that said the moon was racist because it wouldn't produce tides in his bathtub just because the water was safe. Like, what?
That's right. That's the level of stupid we're dealing with.
That's impressively stupid. Like,
yeah, and he actually thought that because it was seawater, that it would work.
He also thought it would stand up directly under the moon, as if the moon would just, pull it in from the ends of the bath and stand it in a column.
Yeah.
Isn't really how the tides happen. The tides happen because the moon is pulling water from 90 degrees around the Earth, sideways.
Exactly.
So,
It was really fucking funny.
the tide you would see in a bathtub, if you had equipment that could measure a tide that tiny, and if you could avoid disturbing the bathtub by walking on the floor or having vehicles drive past 2 miles away, it would actually be at the ends of the bathtub as the moon is 6 hours before or 6 hours past directly overhead, not a hump in the middle when the moon is directly overhead.
I just had to laugh when he was calling the moon racist.
Yeah.
How the fuck did he come to that conclusion?
Yeah.
The moon was racist.
Talk about delusional personification.
Oh. I mean, so MathPig asks how can you watch that's kind of stupid. We watch it because it's important, because there's people who are vulnerable.
Yes.
Who maybe have mental health issues and are looking for a better way of explaining the world around them, and they fall into conspiracies. And if you're willing to believe that the world is flat, then it's not a big jump to believe that the moon doesn't actually have the ability to produce tides.
You even have to.
Yeah, in which case, what does?
And then you go from, this duck pond is flat, therefore the whole of the Earth is flat, therefore this must be fake, this must be fake, this must be fake, this must be fake, this must be fake. The government is lying to us. Billions of dollars are being spent every year on something that isn't actually space flight. We're all being mind controlled. Vaccines cause autism. There's no such thing as a virus. The virus was created in China by Bill Gates. A virus is actually a thing your cell creates to remove toxins from your body.
Yeah. And
masks are mind control. There are nanochips in the virus which will reprogram you. And then you have somebody walking into a pizza shop that doesn't have a basement and demanding at gunpoint to be allowed into the basement to free the children that are being held there.
So, MathPig just asked, did I just call Pratt mentally unstable? Mentally unstable is what you call Pratt when he initially became involved in the flat Earth. What he is now, there are no fucking there's no words for.
That's right.
He literally does all his things from the basement, with his boiler in the background. That's his little set. That's what he's become famous for. But he is a very, very special case. And mental instability doesn't even come into it because that line was so far back for him. It's a fucking dot.
Yeah. To me, Pratt suffers from what I like to call belligerent ignorance.
Yeah, and delusion beyond measure. Like, he really
Violent
does
anti-intellectualism.
help.
That's a nice light-hearted subject for an hour's chat. The government's willful embrace of anti-intellectualism.
Anti-intellectual. That's what it is. For most of them, it's anti-intellectualism. It's a revolt against the idea of the professional. Because we live in a gig economy now. And the idea of hard work and experience actually being respected is not something that happens anymore. That's why you have the likes of the flat earthers. That's why you have anti-maskers and anti-vaxxers and everything else, because the decline of the professional and the respect for the professional is gone. Like, when I was a kid, if I had ever said anything bad about a doctor, someone would slap me upside the head and say, "Where's your fucking degrees?" You can't do that anymore.
No.
Not just slapping people upside the head, but you can't really say to someone, "Well, where's your degrees? Where's your experience? Who the fuck are you to have an opinion about this when you've never worked in the field?" Can't really say that anymore.
No, you can't. The entire world has just become too privileged.
We have people who say, I got my degree from the University of Life. I've lived there. I've worked for my money. I can bench press 250 pounds, so don't you argue with me. You fancy bit of paper on the wall. What do you know? You were at university dotting off while I was working for a living.
No, I did both.
Someone who's never seen how stressed out medical students are.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And how much we had to work to get through college.
Yeah. I think that's what makes it so egregious for me, because I know what it takes. I know the work. I know the hours that has to go in to achieving that level of professionalism, I suppose. Yeah. But what's worse is a lot of people, and I get this, okay, because I left school at an early age. I went back as a mature student into university, but I left school at 15 because I didn't feel like it was going to help me out in any way. Because when you're in school, it is all about, well, I know for Ireland anyway, it's about learn these facts and figures, memorize them and regurgitate them. And so it was a big shock for me, in a good way, when I went to university, that it is all about, well, what do you have to say about this particular thing? And they really do make you think, because to not think, it's called plagiarism. And plagiarism is bad. So therefore, we don't plagiarize. Yes, read the materials, but the whole point, like, I never went below, I think, a 72 in any of my marks. Ever. In university. I was shit when I was in school because I just wasn't interested. But I never went below a 72 in any of my marks, because it was engaging, because it was, what do you think about this? And it's not like school at all. And so people that have never been to university don't really understand that.
I actually had a different experience from that at uni. I got persuaded to go to Warwick. I wanted to go to Stirling or Exeter, but got told, those are too far away. You should go to Warwick. What difference does it make? I'm not going to see you for months either way. Warwick had the better reputation, didn't deserve it, as we found out since. And I was doing molecular biology with virology, which is very much learning a whole lot of facts and being able to write them out in essay form. But I was spending hours in lectures and hours writing up notes and hours going over notes and going through textbooks and hours writing essays and hours trying to unwind and failing, and occasionally eating a potato raw because I hadn't left time to cook it and didn't want to stay up any later because I was working on 5 hours sleep a night as it was. And occasionally getting mugged because Coventry, they call themselves the University of Warwick. They're not in Warwick. They're in Coventry, which ain't quite as nice or as glamorous.
Oh.
End of the second year, the exam was, 3 hours. Time starts now. Doors open. Find your desk. Write 2 of the following 6 essays. There are 6 essay titles. Write 2,500 words per essay. Include diagrams and illustrations where appropriate. By hand, no references. You've got 3 hours. Get writing. Which was a bit annoying because I loved the subject and I understood it well enough. I was doing really well in the labs and I was getting 2 1s and an occasional first and 2 2s and an occasional third on essays during the year. Nobody told me I was supposed to memorize these essays and practice writing 1 word a second non-stop for 3 hours at a time.
Yikes.
So maximum available mark, 50%. If it takes you 3 hours to write 1 essay.
Fuck.
Wow.
Yeah. But at school, I found the subject a mixture of wonderful and boring as hell.
Yep.
And history was definitely one of the ones that was really incredibly boring. Because as a 7-year-old or an 8-year-old, up to 12 when I dropped it, you haven't seen the world yet, unless you've had an incredibly bad childhood or an incredibly privileged childhood. You have not seen, 30 different countries by the age of 8. And you haven't seen the battlefield. You haven't talked to old soldiers. You haven't watched Das Boot in German. You haven't trekked from Normandy to the Rhine, you haven't seen Chung Ek or Auschwitz or anything like that. And history is kind of meaningless.
Well, it's
Alan
abstract.
Shea gets to make it meaningful. Alan Shea Films is really good at presenting it. But to a 7-year-old, the stuff we were being told was just a bunch of names and dates and places that meant absolutely nothing.
Yeah, see, to me, it was the opposite. Yes, there were a bunch of dates and everything else, but I was a very imaginative child and I had a kind of shit home life. So for me, it was an escape. It was all of when I was reading history, I would see them in my mind. I would see these battles. I would see these voyages across the sea. And it was something like I would create my own kind of version in my head. And I could see it happening and playing out. And it was exciting for me. I think that's why I went down the sociology route, because at a young age, history and the development of society was something that just captured my imagination more than anything ever had.
Right. Do you think that having studied sociology, you now appreciate history more when you hear about it than you did back then?
Definitely.
Right. Because I was one of those kids who had no clue socially. I'm probably going to one day get a test and find out that I'm like high functioning autistic 48 XXYY or something. You know? And history was just, especially the stuff you had to memorize about, Lady Jane Boleyn of third daughter of the 7th Duke of West
The titles,
Bodchester.
Yeah.
Married this guy from this place in what was some kingdom in what is now Austria, and founded some sect of Christianity that disappeared 500.
See,
None
I
of
suppose
this mattered to anybody I'm ever going to meet.
But I suppose you guys in the UK, you had a different set of history to us in Ireland, because a lot of our history was, it was pre-British invasion, fucking revolution, history of Europe. So we never really got into the whole. We didn't get in deep about titles and everything else, because to the Irish, titles didn't mean shit. So
Titles was something made up by a bunch of German, Austrian, and French nobles ruling over England and assigning these names to English people that they put in charge of patches of Scotland and Ireland.
Yeah, see, we didn't give a shit. We didn't, and thankfully, our school system is so much so that we don't revere titles. So the whole emphasis on remembering titles was never a thing. If you could remember their name and why they were relevant to a particular event in history, then that was good enough. They never really stressed that you needed to know each individual title and who their fathers were or who their parents were or what it was. And it was mainly as well for me, and I think this is why it captured me. It was event focused, not personality focused. So it was about the event. You had to remember what was going on in the particular event. Now, if you could remember the more intricate details, like what were the boats that fucking Christopher Columbus sailed off in, then great. If you could remember them, you got extra points. But it was remembering the dates of when...
Mary Rose?
What?
Nina, Pinta, and Maria Rosa?
Santa Maria.
Santa Maria. I was close. It had a Maria in it.
See? Santa Maria. Yeah, they get drilled into your head. But it was more... for me anyway, and I think this is why it captured me, it was more event-based. So more than personality-based, which was beneficial for me.
Yeah. I was in a Catholic school from 7 to 11 and a Church of England school from 11 to 18. So most of the history I was taught was probably lies anyway.
Yes. Oof, being in denominational schools. Well, the problem with our school is our school system is predominantly, although it's public school, you still have Catholic priests on the board of management deciding the curriculum. Even now.
I remember us creating all the props and everything and doing a kind of a locally written play. It was probably scripted somewhere officially, like in Rome, and handed down from there, based on the story of Noah's Ark. And it's a long way back now. It's 40 years ago, but I'm sure I remember it as being to help our parents understand it. It was taught to us as being factual history. So,
I love Critical Cripple says, how many people got taught about the English Armada that got trashed by Spain? I'd never learned about that. Well, I did, but very fucking tiny amounts, and we didn't give a shit.
Armada trashed? Inconceivable. Britannia rules the waves.
Right? Yeah. No, we didn't really learn, like World War One, World War Two, that shit. But beyond that, I mean, but there was so much, obviously, because of time constraints. Have you actually, on this, have you ever seen the video History of the Entire World, I guess?
I've definitely seen the thumbnail for it. I don't think I've watched it.
It's about 20 minutes long, and it's so fucking good. He manages to cram pretty much the entire history of events into 20 minutes, and the way in which he does it is absolutely fantastic. Dave has seen it. Yeah, I'm gonna find that link now in a minute and put it in the chat. But it's just such a great video. But you have to listen to it about 15 times to get it all, because it's just so densely packed.
He's not talking very fast like Ben Shapiro. I hate it when people talk very fast like Ben Shapiro. It's very annoying.
I do talk very fast. But yeah, he does talk incredibly fast. But you have to watch it a couple of times to actually get it.
We have our guest from last week in the chat.
Have we?
Yes, Mr. John Rapp.
Yes, John Rapp. Oh, yay. Sorry. So yeah, thank you, Dave. Dave has put
the camera in then.
Hang on. Copy link. Dave has put it in my server on Discord. I'm going to throw it in here. Because I can do it as Reason, because for some reason YouTube hates me on Reason's channel. It won't give me the proper mod status. So there you go.
Wonder why that is, eh?
I think YouTube just hates everybody.
Yeah. YouTube sucks.
So
I think they ignore it when I report stuff as well, because not because I overuse it, but
Just because they don't like you.
NASA will upload NASA will do a live stream, and there'll be 50 people in the side chat going, "Earth is flat, Earth is flat, Earth is flat, Earth is flat, Earth is flat," and I'll be sitting there going, "Reporters hate speech, reporters hate speech, reporters hate speech, reporters hate speech, reporters hate speech." Doesn't make any difference.
Nope. So what is your favorite conspiracies? And what conspiracies do you actually agree with? Because we know that some conspiracies are actually real. Not that lizard people control the world or Queen Elizabeth is a cannibal, but what kind of conspiracies, or what conspiracies do you find fascinating?
Oh, we already mentioned before the show the one about stuff with a 12-month warranty that lasts 12 months and a week. Whereas you buy stuff with a 24-month warranty, and 15 years later, it's still working just fine. And it only costs like 20% more.
There we go. So go for the 2-year. Otherwise, conspiracy dictates that your kettle is going to die.
They're exploiting the poor by tricking you into buying stuff that has little tiny 5p chip in it that kills the machine after 12 months. That's like the boot sole thing, isn't it? If you can afford to buy boots with leather soles, they'll last, and look after them, they'll last you 10 years. But if you can't afford those, you buy the ones with cardboard soles and you have to buy a new pair 12 months later.
Yes, and they end up costing fucking double the amount.
Yeah, being poor is expensive.
Yes, it's ridiculous, actually.
Yeah, it is.
I think my least favourite conspiracy is the Tory conspiracy to degrade the NHS and sell it off and replace it with American-style private healthcare.
Yeah, that's not a fun one. That's really
It's
not a
definitely
fun
real,
one.
and I hate it.
It's something that they've been planning since Thatcher.
Yeah. I like the meta-conspiracy theory. I don't actually believe it, but I'm not sure it's not true. That the government has people on conspiracy theory forums whose job is to actually spot people that are getting too close to the truth and start supporting them and also the most ridiculous other conspiracies they can to try to discredit them by association.
Yeah, I mean, this comes back to the whole idea that, well, which was true, by the way, of infiltrating social awareness groups. And I mean, there was one in the UK where the cops actually got married to people, had children. What was that about? I think it was an eco warriors or something like that, and it actually got married to these people for like 15 years, and then testified against them to say that they were terrorists, they were eco terrorists or some shit.
Jeez.
I do remember the one about undercover police actually marrying people in the organisation. I couldn't remember which organisation it was.
I think it was eco. There was I think it was something to do with the. I can't remember what it was now. But yeah, there was huge uproar because they were married for like 15 years.
Married with children.
With
Can you
children.
imagine being the child and finding out actually your father never really loved your mother. He was pretending the whole time.
And he
you
had
were just
another
part of
family
his
up the
cover
road.
story. Say again?
He had another family. One of them had another family, like fucking about 20 miles
false
away.
identities, 2 wives.
No. One was his actual identity.
Oh, right.
And he went undercover. And he had like 2 children already with this woman, and they undercover he got married to a person in this group, and had another child or another 2 children or something, but he still had the family up the road.
Did anybody ask them how they felt about it?
Not really.
No, that's
I think oh, there we go. Thank you, Fohammer. Fohammer's just mailed it to me. Sorry, I'm just bringing this up. Undercover policeman wed activist he was sent to spy on. Yeah, Green campaigner. It was Greenpeace or something like that.
Wow.
He persuaded his wife to change her name by deed poll to hide their relationship from senior officers. Like, what the fuck?
That is
Wait,
crazy.
He persuaded his pre-existing wife to change her name so that the senior officers wouldn't...
No. I can't remember. Sorry. The revelation about another undercover officer has led to calls for an independent public inquiry into covert operations. The officer is even said to have persuaded his wife to change her name by deed poll to hide their relationship from senior officers. I think that was the woman in the actual group. Mark Kennedy, a police spy whose exposure led to the collapse of a trial of eco activists. Yeah, it was back in 1999.
That's weird.
That's fucked up.
That is really fucked up.
Absolutely mental. Absolutely mental. But that was true. That actually happened, you know? The idea of conspiracies as always bullshit. No, and that's why one of the things that I've been trying to do, like it's going to take me a while because I'm very new to having a channel and I still have no idea what I'm doing. And it takes me a while to get videos out. But in the progression of my channel, what I want to be able to do is separate out the false claims and the false conspiracies with actual events that had happened. Sounds like a good film. Yeah. It would actually. I think it was made into a film at one point. But yeah, it's absolutely batshit crazy. Could you imagine being one of those eco activists and saying this person is a cop? And for years and years and years, you're being told no, 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 and that's why he married your one, because someone was getting close to actually finding out that he was a cop.
Mm-hmm.
I can kind of imagine that from personal experience. But that was yeah.
That's messed up, though. I mean, in the end, he had to know that the woman he married, he's going to have to turn her in.
Yeah. And he stood there and promised to love, honor, and cherish.
Yeah.
It's chilling. It's very chilling.
It was very, very... Oh, I couldn't do it.
Well, that's your moral of the story. Never trust an Englishman.
Ex-Penguin says there is an article in The Guardian where the Met Police had relationships with 7 women while undercover. Ex-Penguin, if you can send it to me, if you're on my Discord, you can put it in the chat in the Discord, or just email it to me, and I'll post it. But yeah, it's I mean, getting off topic, well, kind of a little bit, but it is chilling the lengths of which can be gone to discredit people from actually trying to make the world a safer place and better place.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating to see those kind of conspiracies, which are actually very, very real, be tainted in the same category as people who believe the fucking world is flat.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of safer places, did you see Beau of the Fifth Column recently? Found out that the teenage refugees and asylum seekers and others at the southern border of the USA were being shoved into cages.
Yep.
Yeah.
Jeez.
The US government is paying the company doing that $700 or $750 or $775 something per teenager per day to hold them in those conditions.
Yeah, and what's worse is Biden is pretending, and his administration is pretending that one, it's only temporary because of COVID. Two, that they're much better conditions than what they were under Trump. It's the same fucking cages. I don't give a shit how fancy curtains you put on them. They're still the fucking same buildings.
Yeah,
you know,
have they built another, like, have they quadrupled the number of them and quartered the population density of them so that there is now actually room to breathe or not? But for $700 per teenager per day, I'll be quite happy to fly across the USA, build my own house with plenty of bedrooms, and adopt 6 of them. It's 6 by 700. What's that? 4,000.
Yeah.
$4,500 per day. I think I could do quite well, and I will teach them English and maths and biology and sewing and cooking and marksmanship and carpentry and all kinds of things. And they will be a lot happier living with me there than they would be in cages. $700, $750 a day, you know?
That's incredible. Like, and what's more is they can't find money to fund the fucking health service, but they can find $750 a day per child to give this private company for abusing children, basically.
Yeah. And we still don't know how many disappeared. We still don't know exactly who else was a frequent visitor to Jeffrey Epstein's island, apart from Bill Clinton and Donald Trump, who both were. We still don't know where the new venue is. We still don't know how many girls vanished from those cages to that new venue. But they can find, is it $50,000 an hour it costs for those fighter jets for the fly past over the Super Bowl or a presidential inauguration or a campaign rally?
Yeah, I mean, and this is the thing that people really need to understand about politics. The idea that one person can come in and completely overhaul the system, that was never going to happen. And this is why, yes, I wanted Biden in, but I wanted Biden in for the very fucking simple reason of wanting Trump out. And most Americans would actually agree with that. They didn't like Biden. They just fucking despised Trump. And the problem with politics, as I see it, is when you have that top-down approach. I keep saying, like, the greatest victory of capitalism is to convince ordinary people that all politicians are the same at all levels, at all times. And what it does, it's the same thing that I say about veganism as well. I don't mind you being vegan, but if you're vegan, having run a farm, if you're vegan on the premise of wanting to prevent cruelty to animals, then you're fucking lazy. I'm sorry if you don't agree, but the reason why I say that is because when you think that all politicians are the same, when you think that conditions on every single farm for every single animal is the same, what it does is it prevents you from doing research. And I hate to sound like a flirt, but do your own fucking research. It doesn't take that much, especially with a computer right there in front of you. Even in your hand on your phone, you have the ability to actually phone up farms and say, right, can I come and see the conditions of your animals? Can I see the conditions of the slaughterhouse that they're going to be made into meat? Same thing. You can go down, you can talk to your fucking, your public representatives, and you can ask them questions. They have offices that you can go in and talk to them and decide whether or not you want to support them. Instead of saying, I'm not going to listen to any politician ever. How the fuck do you think you're going to change a system if you're not going to engage with that system?
Oh yeah, the biggest actual winner of the last US presidential election, and quite often the biggest winner of any election in the UK, is didn't even show up to the vote, to the poll.
Yeah.
That if the people who didn't show up, who didn't vote at all, had all voted for the same third party, it would have been a landslide for that third party.
Well,
even if they'd shown up and
it's not even that, right? So when you don't show up, here's the thing, and I've been in politics for over 10 years in terms of community activism and political activism, in the course of becoming a sociologist. So here's
when you don't show up, you're saying to the politicians, we don't care what you do, carry on. We're not going to do anything about it.
It's actually more dangerous than that. When you don't show up to vote, you are voting for the very people you hate. Because they will always have their people out to vote. They will always have it. And so you're actually saying, go ahead, keep doing what you're doing. I don't give a shit because I'm not going to go out and vote. You're actually handing them the election. You're saying that you agree because you're not going to stand up against them. And that's the dangerous part. And I do believe that it has to start in communities. It has to start from the bottom up. And if you don't start from the bottom up, if you don't see someone that you like in politics, do it your fucking self. Honestly, people think politics is something that is so detached from them. Run in a local election and say, there's no politician that actually serves me, so I'm going as an independent. Independence in the likes of two-party dominant roles or councils or parliaments, those independents can make a huge difference. Huge difference.
Well, they're the only ones that are allowed to make a difference. Which is,
well, that's the thing. And Ireland is a microcosm of it, right? We were predominantly ruled by two parties for the last 100 years, Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael. And they were always dominant. There was the Civil War partners or the Civil War parties. You either voted for one or you voted for the other. And any other party would come in with one or other. In the last 10 years, since the economic bust, There have been more independents in our parliament which can break a government on certain issues.
Which they
Like
call
one of those issues where they were creating the new national maternity hospital, right? And the dominant party was going to give the contract to the Bon Secure nuns who had run Magdalene laundries and mother and baby homes.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the independents that came out and said, I am not fucking standing over this. Change it or I'm walking, and the government falls. It was the independents.
Well, that's why it's in the interests of the corporations that own the two big American parties to make sure that independents don't get anywhere in America.
Yes,
To
and
them,
that's why you start at a basic level, at a local level.
Yeah. To them, the media propaganda about that says, the two parties, and the stuff that reminds everybody that it's going to be Biden or Trump, which was true, it was going to be, but they make it going to be Biden or Trump by telling everyone it's going to be Biden or Trump, is an investment. It's an investment in keeping the two-party system that keeps the country corporate state, that keeps them profitable and everybody else down.
Yeah. By the way, we're past the 12:30 mark. We need to go.
Are we?
Yeah. So we're going to go for an extra few minutes so that unless people find the goat.
Okay.
Find the goat, people.
Somewhere there
It
is a goat.
open.
I better
When
not
you
spot it
hear the
myself.
goat
'Cause
again, the contest is over.
this would be awkward.
No, it won't. Be fine. What, are you going to try find the goat now so that you can come on next week too?
I'm going to look for it, but I think I probably shouldn't. Very awkward to run out of things to say and just sit here staring at each other.
Yeah. I'm not that much into politics. I never really was. But I do know that even if you hate politics or you have no interest in it, at some level, you need to get involved, or otherwise things will never change.
We have a really big problem in all of the UK, probably, which they also have to some extent in the States. Of a solid red state there, we have safe seats here, where if 60% of the well, even 51% of the population of this constituency are always going to vote Tory no matter what you do, well, none of the other parties can win this constituency, so they don't have to worry about any of the people here. And the Tories are always going to, so they don't have to worry about any of the people here, and no one's opinion here matters. Where if it's 45 always vote Tory and 45 always vote Lib Dem and 5 always vote Labour, and you have 5% that haven't made up their minds, those 5% are the people whose interests and concerns actually matter to the people who want to form the next national government.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're in a constituency that can go either way, and your vote can go either way, you have a voice. Everybody else gets told to stuff it.
We may have had a winner.
Ooh.
Carl Edwards says he stole it from MathPig, but MathPig didn't do it in since the goat went off. In which case, Carl might be the winner. Because screw you, MathPig. If you don't wait for the goat, you don't get. Come on, it doesn't count. Doesn't count. If you don't wait for
Could
the
be
goat.
really cruel and put slow mode on, couldn't you? So if someone has just said something just before the goat goes off, they'll be sitting there with the correct answer typed out, just waiting for the timer.
Yeah, we're not that cruel. I could be, but we're not that cruel. But that's a fucking genius idea. Although Carl Edwards has the wrench, so it wouldn't work for him. It'll work on MathPig because MathPig is not allowed a wrench.
Is John Rapp allowed a wrench?
Has John Rapp a wrench on this channel? I don't know.
Or did he just get the finger when he asked for one?
To be honest with you, talking to John Rapp was incredible. I was very happy.
Yeah, it was interesting.
I was very pleased that he came on and allowed us to pop his cherry. That was a good day. Rather goatist. What's rather goatist, Fred? I'm going to be concentrating a bit more on the chat for a little while, but yeah, keep talking.
Well, we've done politics. We could go for something more light-hearted, like that Thanos guy. What an arsehole.
The what guy?
Thanos in one of those Marvel movies. I can kind of see where he would start from a world that's been utterly devastated by overpopulation and say, I've got to go around all the planets of the galaxy and remove half the sentient species from every one of them. And from there to, I need a tool that can do this, in the Infinity Gauntlet. But how did he not think, once he had the Infinity Gauntlet, hey, you know what? I could do better than just killing 3.5 billion people.
Well, according to Fohammer, Thanos did nothing wrong. Explain yourself, Fohammer.
I mean, there are other things he could have done with that power, like pull all the plastic out of the ocean gyres, get rid of it, or pull some carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere and pack it back into the ground, possibly on another planet so that we don't just burn it again, or teleport all the rats back to India where they're actually native species to stop them devastating the native species of other land masses. Or, get rid of all the giant hogweed from Britain. That might be a good start. Or from the whole of Western Europe, because that is a very unpleasant plant. Or create 4 more Earths.
That would be good.
Orbit around the same star with all the wildlife, but none of the humans and none of the pollution. Clone the wildlife onto them. The wildlife is now protected. You could give a couple of them just a little bit more or less axial tilt, just to create some diversity.
What were we going to eat then?
Well, we'd still have. Well, you get all the people who want a Middle East with no Israel at all and no Jews at all, and put them on one planet, and all the people who want a Middle East with a single Israel that extends from the Suez Canal to the east side of the, to the Tomb of Moses, because he's not allowed to be in Israel, and from the south end of Sinai up to the Turkish border, and put them on another world, and all the people who want everyone to get along can stay on this one.
Yeah. Well, just real quick, Blue Marble Science is in the chat, and I sent you a message, Blue. If you could have a look at it when you have time, I would really appreciate it. Yeah, it's on Discord. Sorry. Cool. My brain is just like fuck. Yeah, but I do think we do have a winner.
Do we?
Carl Edwards.
Oh, congratulations, Carl.
Yay! So, Carl, as long as you have a mic, you're able to come on. We don't mind.
Did he find him? Really?
Yep, he did.
Oh, well, Mr. Clive Wells. Congratulations, sir. For the rest of you.
No, Carl Edwards, not Clive.
Or Carl Edwards, I'm sorry.
Screw Clive.
There's our little goatee.
That's a goat. Hang on.
Yeah, he's just I flipped him upside down.
Well, not quite upside down, but yeah. He's on his side.
Yeah, that's right. All right, so there you go. We've got our winner for today, folks.
Carl says, I have a mic, but not much of a voice.
Who
cares? You don't need a voice.
It's all right. You can borrow mine. I have several spares.
Several spares.
I got this one and I almost never use it.
Awesome. Sorry, Blue just responded to my message. Yay!
Cool.
If you look at the Thanos thing, they showed one side effect in the film. That 1/8 of the airliners that are currently in flight lose both pilots.
Interesting.
That's a bit of a problem.
Just a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
So, his idea of just mercifully, painlessly deleting a load of people without anyone actually suffering, well, bullshit for a start. For all the passengers who are stuck in planes that are suddenly falling out of the sky. But you've also got, 1/8 of children who still had both parents lose both. Sorry, 1/4 of children who had still had both parents lose both. single parent families, half the kids are now orphaned. Half the, I forget what the actual numbers are, but a whole lot of people have lost partners. A whole lot of parents have lost children. Basically, everybody on the whole of Earth now has PTSD.
There was
What do people do after an event like that? What happens to the population immediately after a natural disaster or a war? What do soldiers do when they get home from a war? They have babies.
they rebuild.
So what Thanos actually did was
Create
create
a new baby
population
boom.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. He created
One
a
of the
baby.
biggest things you can do to reduce the population growth rate in an impoverished third world country, like, Namibia or Angola or Wyoming, is to actually reduce infant mortality.
Yeah.
Provide
there's,
healthcare, provide education, reduce infant mortality, give people the confidence that each of their children will live to be 70 and have grandchildren. They'll only have 2.
Well, just on that, because there's another movie. I don't know if anyone in here has ever seen it. It was a Netflix movie called What Happened to Monday. Fucking brilliant, cracker of a film. And basically what it is again, it's dealing with this whole idea of overpopulation. But it's taking it to the extreme. So there was 7 children born to a woman. The woman dies in childbirth. The grandfather takes on the role of looking after the kids. But because of overpopulation, you're only allowed 1 child.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest are quote unquote put into storage. And so what happens is, to keep them all safe, he gives each of them a day of the week. And they're only allowed to leave the house, because they're identical twins. They're only allowed to leave the house on the day of their name. And all of a sudden, so they take on, all girls, they take on the role of this one individual. And they all wear wigs, or they put on extreme makeup and all the rest of it, so that they all look like this one person.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, one day, Monday never comes home from work. And they have to figure out whether she's been caught or whether something has happened to her. So then Tuesday has to go out and go to work and act like everything is normal. Fucking brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I'm not going to spoil it. I do think you should go and watch it, because the way in which they've done it, and the twists and the turns and it's just, that is the way movies are supposed to be written.
It sounds really
And it was so low budget as well. It was so low budget, but it was a brilliant movie.
Have you seen Das Boot?
No.
The German movie from back in, I think, the 80s.
Yeah, I've seen that.
You have to watch the full 5 and a bit hour version of it, and you have to watch it in German, because they got the same actors to do the English voice lines, and they didn't speak English well enough to act and speak English. But that is one brilliant film. It's absolutely horrifying. But they made that one on a slightly bigger budget, took it very seriously. They had the cast locked up inside, not allowed out into the sunlight, so that they would actually become as pale as they should be from being on the submarine. And where a lot of these submarine films, they build sort of half the bridge and half the torpedo room, and they film from way over outside.
Yeah.
For this one, they built the entire submarine. The cameraman was in there with them. There's one place, if you know to look for it, that it cuts out at a rather strange moment while they're all running to the front of the boat to get the bows down to dive faster to avoid an aircraft. It cuts out at a rather peculiar spot where you think, that was a strange place for a cut. But it's actually because the cameraman tripped over the door frame, for want of a better term, and landed flat on his face. So they had to stop filming at that point.
Jesus Christ.
Because it was all squeezed in. It was really claustrophobic. That was a brilliant film. Well, there's one. That's an old subject from back in the days of Usenet, I think. Somebody suggested that there was a film that nobody should be allowed in government if they hadn't seen.
What?
And I can't remember which one it was, but we were collecting a list of things you must read or watch before you're allowed to be in government. And my nomination was Das Boot. So
Interesting.
do you two have suggestions for it?
Stuff that you have. Well, if in terms of books, I would say The Shock Doctrine by Naomi Klein. Everyone should read that. That is without doubt one of the most incredibly illuminative and dangerous topics that she covers. Some of the most incredible things that she talks about. So yeah, Naomi Klein's The Shock Doctrine. Everyone, whether you're in politics or not, should read that book. It's a long book, but it is on the audiobooks as well.
I don't really have one.
Trying to think any movies.
Yeah.
Other than fucking V for Vendetta, but that if you piss off and repress people long enough, they're going to get pissed off at you. They're going to fucking revolt. Like, just don't do it. But no, I don't. I think, to be honest with you, I would rather people have experience in the real world and dealing with communities that they want to either control or benefit or insert fucking word here. That if you don't have experience living in different communities, then you shouldn't presume to know what their issues are and how you can solve them, because that level of arrogance just doesn't work.
No.
If you can live in a TV sitcom era, which era would it be? There's an interesting one. 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, or 21st century?
As long as it's not bloody Friends.
Yeah, fuck Friends.
No
Do
kidding.
you know, I've never seen a full episode of Friends.
Neither have I. Can't stand it.
Sitcom era. See, do we really have many sitcoms in the 21st century? I mean, other than
No.
fucking Big Bang.
I stopped watching TV years
Yeah.
and years ago.
Honestly, I don't know. I don't know, your pal Al. It's a good question.
I'd have to say the 70s myself.
Is old enough to have seen all of what, by the way? Which brings me on to something else now in a minute. I'm old enough to have seen what? I'm confused.
Probably old enough to have seen all of those eras. I can't remember when Bewitched was.
That was in the
Oh, didn't I?
70s, 60s, 70s.
It's nice to have somebody who knows it wasn't just a girl band.
No.
Oh, fuck off. They weren't a girl band so much as they were fucking a national embarrassment. Christ almighty.
I'm not sure the two terms are mutually exclusive.
Yeah, Bacon, we're going to talk. We're going to talk, you asshole. You're in trouble now. Yeah, well, it's 5-1, my time, our time, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So we are going to have to do wrap-ups. Dave, no. Just no. Don't be quoting Bewitched at me. No. And what's worse is the fact that I know that is a Bewitched quote. As in the girl band, not the fucking... Ugh. Shit. Anyway, right. What's happening?
All right. Yeah, exactly. Well, our winner for next week is Carl Edwards, right?
Yeah, Carl, get in
Okay,
touch.
so-
Email
All
me.
right. Yep. Get in touch with either myself or Crafty, and we'll make sure that we send you the link at the appropriate time, and we'll get you on. Get to find out a little bit more about who you are.
Right. Well, right. So before we go, just really, really quickly. So March is my birthday. I'm not going to tell you when my birthday is because fuck you all. But I will be running a stream in and around the 20th to celebrate. So keep an eye on that because I will be like telling little bits and pieces over the next couple of weeks. But on the issue of birthdays, oh yes, you thought you were going to get away with this, you little fucker. Chris Durham's birthday is today. And I noticed that on Facebook this morning. Facebook sent me an alert. Tatty just reminded me. Thank you, Tatty. But I was going to bring it up at the end of the show. Chris Durham is one creator that I really enjoy because he does music and he's awesome. But he also keeps me in line and reminds me to do stuff. So a big happy birthday to Chris. Your support has meant everything to me over the last year. And you're just a fucking brilliant person. So happy birthday. And also happy birthday to Math Pig's daughter. It's his daughter's birthday today too. So happy birthday to her.
Birthdays today. That's awesome.
And Daybreaker Flint, how are you? I see you in the chat. You've been lurking. But yeah, a big happy birthday to Chris.
Absolutely.
He's an awesome person. He really is. And he's so supportive of a lot of us in the community. So
yes, very much so. Happy birthday, Chris. Hope you had a good day.
Yeah, happy birthday, Chris. So, unnamed short person.
Yes. Unnamed short.
So,
unnamed short.
Before we close up?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kathy.
The other thing, the thing that I was messaging Blue about earlier, is Friday. At I think we're going at 10 p.m. I'm pretty sure. Time to be confirmed. But once a month, I'm grabbing hold of Tatty to be a producer again, to produce my new show called Ion Society. And in that, we're going to be looking at a range of different issues in our society and how they got to be issues or things that are in the news to give the full context. So the first one is going to be on Myanmar or Burma, as a lot of people know it, and what's happened in the last month in terms of the coup that, and the last couple of years. But we're going to go into the full history as to how it happened and how the military in Burma became so prevalent. On that show, I'm going to be joined by, for the first episode, the people that have been set in stone are Blue Marble Science and Vishanti. So I'm very much excited about that show. And of course, Tatty is going to be producing, so he will have some opinion. I don't give a fuck if he doesn't want to share it. I'm going to make him. Because you have to. When you have a Tatty on the panel, you have to make him talk.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's an exciting one. Because I'm looking forward to that. The month after, April, we're going to have Clapperjack on to talk about Belarus. And we're going to do a full in-depth history of Belarus. That's going to be exciting.
That's going to be good.
So,
all right.
I think that's everything.
Okay. Sableagle, do you have anything happening on your channel or anything you'd like to kind of shill out before we close up?
Not a lot on mine because the flat earthers aren't providing anything interesting to answer. They're just saying the same stuff. So I'm occasionally uploading clips of birds eating bird food in the garden.
Okay.
I may cycle up the dales and upload a clip of a river running down a river valley at some point.
Excellent.
Nothing thrilling.
You can turn them into shorts.
He's Sableagle is becoming an artiste.
An artiste.
Getting the wildlife.
Always good to have a new artiste. Yeah. All right, so that's about it for us, folks. Just a reminder, Pain of Progress is on its way. It's a little bit behind schedule, so probably not going to be premiering it for the next hour or two, but I hope to get it out later on this evening. So just watch your feeds, and we'll get that
Make
out.
sure the bell is clicked. I'll be here
Yeah,
anyway.
make sure that bell is ticked. Absolutely. So it is coming out this evening, just not right now. I just needed some extra time to get it in the can and ready to go. And other than that, I've got nothing else. So, Crafty, thank you again. Always great to be here with you, dear.
Of
And
course, I love it.
yeah, me too. I do. I'm getting into the habit of looking forward to just spending time with my good friend Crafty. So, and for everyone in the chat, thanks for coming out. We love you all. We look forward to seeing you next week. And Carl Edwards, don't forget to contact us so we can get you on. And that's it.
Bye, people.
Bye.